What's going on, everyone? Talon here, and welcome back to another episode of Character Lab. Alright, so it's been a little while, but it's time to finally look at our next character in the lab here. So, with the, not recent anymore, but at the time that I recorded all these clips, because it has been a little while now, because as you can see, it's still game version 3.1 that I recorded this in. We are looking at one of the X-Men, and we're going to be looking at Magneto for this episode. So let's go ahead and load up Magneto into the character lab here. Alright, so here we have Magneto loaded up. So his real name is Max Eisenhart. He is 6'2", weighs 190 pounds, and Magneto's special abilities, of course, are controlling all forms of magnetism. He can manipulate magnetic fields that exist naturally and artificially. Also, his powers are not necessarily just limited to magnetism. He can control anything in the electromagnetic spectrum, so he can control X-rays, forms of light, gamma rays. He can control all different kinds of energy. They're just more difficult for him to control, so that's mainly why he sticks to magnetism. Alright, so now that we know a little bit about Magneto here, or Max, let's go ahead and take a look at his stats in game. Alright, so here we have my Magneto. So we have his gears maxed out, so his gears are at 20. I haven't equipped an obelisk on him yet because I was still kind of deciding what obelisk I did want to put on him, so that's why that's still blank. But for his gear, of course, we have energy or all attack here, we have all defense, we have HP, and then we have skill cooldown. Alright, and for his skills, we've maxed out a few of them. So I maxed out this one because you get more reduction in the enemy's defense, and then we maxed out the magnetic storm because we get more guard hits, which is really nice. I do love this guard. And then we maxed out his 5th skill as well, the magnetic maelstrom, because we get more all attack, more all defense, and more all speed boost from this. So he has really nice skills because he has a guard. His skills, actually, a lot of them have iframes as well, or partial iframes, which is really nice for canceling out the enemy's attacks. And then his isolate set, I have Power the Angry Hulk, so I want the offensive set here, which I think is really good for Magneto, because he has really good survivability, so you don't really need like a heal or a bubble or anything like that on him. For his obelisk, I think I might end up giving him a guard break immunity, possibly, but he has so many iframes that I don't necessarily find myself getting guard broken too often, so I may not give him a guard break. And then if I decide to use him for PvP, I will go, of course, with the invincibility. If I want to just kind of crank out his DPS and just play around with him in PvE, then I will do a damage proc. But his damage is already pretty good, so he doesn't necessarily need the damage proc, so invincibility is probably your best bet with Magneto. Alright, so that's that. So let's look at his details here. So we have 21% ignore dodge. His skill cooldown is actually higher than I thought. It's at 40%, so I can definitely change his 4th gear here around and change this to ignore defense, because we can drop it by a few percent, because we want to be at around 36% skill cooldown. So I could probably change like these bottom few here to ignore defense, which I'll do later on, but for this video we're going to keep everything the same so that he has the same stats for all of the game modes that we try him out in. So that's going to be Magneto for his stats. So now let's go ahead and move on to the first test. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at Magneto in Shadowland. So Magneto doesn't really have many problems here in Shadowland. He can pretty much clear any floor that he's able to do damage in. So let's go ahead and try him out first here in the regular Rumble, Combat Rumble. So he's going to, of course, just be by himself because he can use his own leadership, and he has so much crowd control and iframes that he doesn't really need any extra help. So this is going to be a nice, easy clear for him. So as you can see, we'll skip ahead to the end here. He's able to clear it in under 45 seconds, or around 45 seconds, so that's a really easy clear for him. So now let's go ahead and we'll load up the next one, which is of course going to be a rally mode. So the combat rally is going to be, of course, even easier than the rumble, so he's going to be able to clear this one just as effectively. So as you can see, he's not having any problems here. He's able to lock up everyone pretty easily. So we'll get to the end, and yep, he's able to clear that one as well. So now let's go ahead and try out something a little bit harder. So we're going to try out the villain relay mode here, or rumble mode, I'm sorry. So we'll try out the rumble here for the villains, which is usually a bit more difficult just because you have 5 enemies to deal with. And of course, Carnage and Venom together can be quite annoying because they do stun and crowd control you quite easily. But it's still not a problem for Magneto just because his skills are able to hit such a wide area that he's able to control big crowds of enemies pretty easily. So we'll skip ahead to the end here, and as you can see, he's also able to clear this floor quite easily. So now let's go ahead and move on to the Hulk Rumble. So we have the Hulk Rumble here, which is another floor that can be quite difficult just because the Hulks are really high attack speed in this floor here, so they can pretty much just make your health disappear, just seeming like one touch and you're dead. But Magneto is able to keep them under control pretty easily again, and of course they only reflect physical, so we have no issue here using Magneto. So we'll go ahead and skip to the end again. So another easy clear for Magneto. So as you can see, Magneto's not having much problems at all in any of these Shadowlands floors. But here we come to the villain wave mode. And this is one where you're going to need really high DPS to be able to clear this, because wave modes, you always need to have high DPS characters just to be able to get through them. So Magneto does struggle a little bit here for this particular floor, just because at tier 1 his damage isn't spectacular. His damage is good though, but it's not quite enough to be able to clear this wave mode, or at least I was not able to, so we'll skip ahead to the end here. So as you can see, I ran out of time with Red Skull around half health. Definitely if I had an obelisk on him, that would help if I have some kind of damage boost from the obelisk. And of course at tier 2 he's not going to have any problems beating this floor, but at tier 1 you are going to probably struggle a little bit, so probably keep that in mind. So let's go ahead. We have a few other things to look at here. So we have just the regular Iron Fist boss mode here, which I'm going to take him in without a ignore dodge leadership, and as you can see, because of his skills having so many hits and being able to crowd control really easily, you don't necessarily need the ignore dodge to be able to clear this with Magneto, so we'll go ahead and skip through. Of course, if you had ignore dodge, it might go a little bit faster, because it does take most of the time to clear this stage here, but Magneto's able to clear it nonetheless. He's also able to clear the Loki boss mode. It goes without saying because it'll be easier than this one because you don't have to worry about the dodging. And then we do have him on the other villain wave mode with just Ronin and Nebula, and this one is a little more manageable for Magneto because you don't have that third enemy to deal with. So as you can see, we'll skip towards the end here. Magneto is able to clear this one within the time period, so he can clear this villain wave mode pretty effectively. So now let's go ahead and look at some of the last floors. So we have floors 21 through 24. First of all, let's look at floor 21 here with Venom. So we'll go ahead and bring Magneto in. And of course, Magneto is able to keep Venom locked down pretty easily, which is the big reason why he's able to do this floor is because he's able to keep Venom locked down, because as you know, what makes this floor difficult is all of Venom's crowd control. He can stun lock you for what seems like the entire battle, or at least until you're dead, but if you keep him locked up, it becomes a lot easier. So as you can see, it does take most of the time, showing that his damage is a little bit above average, but nothing too crazy. So he is able to clear floor 21 by himself at tier 1 pretty easily. You just got to make sure you have enough damage, and like I said, I don't even have an obelisk, so he should be able to do it for most. And then here we have floor 22, which is the villains stage. Another one that can be quite difficult because you don't have many villains that are able to clear this easily, and that's mainly because of Malekith and Bullseye's bleed, which can pretty much melt your health if you get hit by it. So as you can see, Magneto's able to keep them under control pretty effectively, He's hardly even getting hit, and he does have enough damage, as you can see, to clear this floor as well. So if you need a floor 22 clear, tier 1 Magneto can also do that for you. So next up, we're going to have floor 23. So floor 23 here with She-Hulk and Jessica Jones is quite difficult as well, just because of their attack speed. They seem like they're on steroids. They move around so fast when they're attacking you, and also they have really good recovery as well, because they seem to recover from stuns and guard breaks really fast. But as you can see, as long as you constantly attack them and keep them somewhat pinned down with Magneto, he is able to clear this floor as well, especially since he has type advantage. That really does help. So also Magneto can clear floor 23 if you're looking for a clear for that. So now we'll move on to the final floor of the Shadowland clips that I have, which is going to be floor 24 with Luke Cage. So another one where you pretty much just need a high DPS character to be able to take out Luke Cage here. So let's go ahead and skip more towards the end here. So as you can see, Magneto having the type advantage is enough for him to be able to clear this floor even at tier 1. So Magneto is definitely a very powerful character in Shadowland. He can clear, like I said, pretty much any stage that he is able to do damage in. So as long as he's has some kind of type advantage and doesn't do that 1 damage, you should be good, except for maybe, like I said, the villain wave mode with all 3 villains. That one can be more difficult for him. But anyway, Magneto for Shadowland, very easy clear for pretty much all stages, so definitely a character worth using in Shadowland if you need one. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the next game mode. Alright, so here we have Magneto at World Boss, so we're going to of course take him against Thanos like all the other times. So we're going to go ahead and use this team here with Wiccan and Red Skull. We're going to use his own leadership, and we just get a few bonuses this way. And then of course we're going to take him in with just all tier 1 energy strikers, or energy damage strikers. And now we'll bring him in here against Thanos. So as you can see, if you just cycle through his iframes, you should not get hit very much. I'm going to keep up the 4th skill, of course, for the guard against hits. And then if you do see Thanos start to use his debuff, the blue ball, you can hit the 1st or the 3rd skill to pop into an iframe so that your shield or your guard against hits does not get debuffed. Of course, you can just hop into the 4th skill if it is ready. And the good thing about his 4th skill actually is it does not need a target, so it's actually a good way to avoid his meteors. So if you're not able to outrun the meteors and you notice that he's about to, or not that he's about to, but you weren't able to knock him out of the animation and he starts using the meteors, you can actually just hop into Magneto's 4th skill and it will buy you some time because it will put you in an iframe, which is really nice. So as you can see, Magneto's not having much trouble here at all. You can pretty much just knock him out of his meteor though every time, just because the 1st, 3rd, and 4th skill all have iframes on them. So here we go. Oh, I think I may have done that right here. No, I just outran the meteors, but I could have used the 4th skill, I just didn't think of it at the time. And there we go, a nice easy clear for Magneto. So he was able to clear it in 2 minutes and 29 seconds. So, I mean, that's a reasonable amount of time, but we also have a bonus clip of Magneto here. So I actually did record a fight against Infinity Thanos with Magneto. So for this one, I used a different team. I used Cyclops and Storm to get more bonuses, but I did use the same strikers. So let's go ahead and use Magneto here. So as you can see, just make sure that you keep using your iframes as soon as you see Thanos about to jump or do the punch. Or just make sure, of course, you have your guard up, because then you can guard against that, like I just did right there. I had the guard up, so I did not take damage from that punch. Again, it's going to be the same kind of rotation that you want to use against regular Thanos. Just as soon as you see him start to use any of his attacks, you're just going to use an iframe, and it's pretty straightforward from there. Magneto is another pretty easy clear for Infinity Thanos here. It does take him quite a while because his damage is a little bit lower, but he's still able to clear it with a reasonable time, even at tier 1, which is really nice because there's not many characters that can say they can clear Infinity Thanos at tier 1. So Magneto is going to be a nice option for people that need another clear for Infinity Thanos, but don't necessarily have a lot of tier 2s ready to go or something like that. Of course, the downside is that Magneto is paywall because you do have to buy him with crystals. But anyway, Magneto is still a pretty easy clear for Infinity Thanos. As you can see, he did get hit at the end there because I kind of thought I was going to kill him before he got into the meteors, so I wasn't really paying attention. And also, I don't know if a lot of other people have that problem, but it seems like whenever I'm doing battles, it refuses to tap out the character or swap characters for me. Like, I really do have to hit it about 10 to 15 times before it actually registers to swap out characters. But anyway, he's able to clear it in under 4 minutes, so a nice respectable time for Magneto here. So now let's go ahead and take a look at him in the last game mode, the Alliance Conquest. Okay, so here we are at Alliance Conquest, so we're going to go ahead and use Magneto here against a relatively easy team, so they can see which skills Magneto uses. Then we're just going to give him 2 characters to go with them that aren't going to be high DPS and just one-shot the enemy, so that we can see what's going to play out here. So let's go ahead and load up this match here. Okay, let's get going. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and slow this down so that we can see what Magneto's going to do. Alright, so as you can see, he does the 3rd skill where he jumps up and then he punches the ground, which is an iframe, so that's really nice. So he does start with an iframe skill, and then it looks like he's hopping into the 2nd skill, which is also very nice because that will give him some crowd control, and then it looks like he is popping back into the 3rd skill. So I do like that rotation that he starts off with right there. So he starts with an iframe and then he goes into the 2nd skill, which is going to be really nice for grouping up the enemies or guard breaking the enemies. So it seems like he has a pretty strong starting rotation. Of course, that can change based on your position of Magneto, or it can also change on based on the amount of enemies, of course. So as you can see here, he's going to start with the same skill, but we do have 3 enemies as well, because it does, based on how far away the enemy is from your character, will determine which skill generally that they use. But most of the time they do stick with the same starting skill. So as you can see, he did the same rotation, the 3rd skill to the 2nd skill, which is very nice, because if he kept doing that each time I used him in Alliance Conquest, I would be very happy, because we do get, like I said, the iframe and then the vortex to kind of control the enemies. So Magneto is also looking like a very powerful character for Alliance Conquest, so definitely someone that you would want to use in Alliance Conquest. And I think if you give him a invincibility obelisk, he's going to be really, really tough to deal with, just because it looks like he will use his iframe skills quite a lot, and then he does have a lot of crowd control, so he can be pretty difficult, I would think, to deal with. Anyway, that's going to be Magneto in Alliance Conquest. I would say he's going to be one of the better characters to use for Alliance Conquest. So now let's go ahead and wrap up this episode here. Alright, so that was a look at Magneto in our character lab here. Summary is he is definitely a very powerful character for all game modes. He's going to do very well in PvP, he's going to do very well in Shadowland, and he's going to be able to clear all of the world bosses. And he can do all of this at tier 1, and he only gets better at tier 2 just because of that nice damage increase that he gets. So Magneto, definitely a character that you would want to pick up if you can, because he's going to help you out in pretty much all the game modes. But anyway, that's going to be it for this episode of Character Lab. I hope you enjoyed, and of course I will catch you in the next one.